WBUR Podcasts, Boston.
I'm Darryl C. Murphy, and you're listening to The Common. Boston Globe political reporter Samantha J. Gross, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I heard you got back from Rome. You just went to Rome recently.
I did.
How was it?
It was great. It was very warm and sunny there, while it was a bit cooler and rainier here. So I really enjoyed that. It was a really great opportunity to meet a lot of some of the biggest world leaders who convened at the Vatican for this summit that I went to.
You met a lot of world leaders because you were not there on vacation. You were there working, following Mayor Michelle Wu, Governor Maura Healey,
correct,
and State Climate Chief Melissa Hoffer while they attended an international climate conference at the Vatican. And this conference was called From Climate Crisis to Climate Resilience. First, start us off and tell us more about this summit. Who organized it and who were some of the leaders there?
Yeah, the summit, it was a 3-day summit that was organized by the Pontifical Academy of Sciences at the Vatican, and also, co-hosts from the U.S., including UMass Chancellor Marcelo Suarez Orozco. So he put together, some of these panels of some of the world's most foremost leaders on climate and, basically helped facilitate this meeting of the minds. I think, because obviously he has a Boston connection, there was a lot of, Bay Staters represented at the Vatican last week.
So wait, real quick, just what is the Pontifical Sciences of the Vatican?
This is a really old academy. I believe it was founded in the 1600s. And their mission, I guess, is to bring together academics to kind of share ideas and bring people from all over the world to learn from each other. There were, indigenous leaders from tribes in Brazil, all sorts of mayors from cities all over the world. There's probably, several dozen I can list off. And there were also a lot of academics, people from Harvard and MIT and Miami and Cornell and, people who study climate who were there to learn as well. The point of this summit was to not just talk about climate change, but to talk about how leaders, governors and mayors specifically, are adapting to a warming world, especially in places that are really at risk, like coastal communities like Boston, for example.
So this trip sounds pretty cool. I gotta ask, who paid for this trip?
So the governor and Mayor Michelle Wu both went on taxpayer dollars, but their trips were paid for by different funds. The governor's trip was paid for by the Massachusetts Tourism Trust Fund, which is a pot of money that can be used to promote tourism in Massachusetts. And that is funded in part by a tax on gaming revenues that come from local casinos. Mm-hmm. And the mayor, her trip was paid for by the city of Boston. They paid for her flights to and from Italy and her hotel. But the mayor was also using her own money to pay for part of the trip, which involved visiting a town where her husband's family has roots.
Got it. So with that in mind, why was it so important for them to be there? And what opportunity did their presence at this 3-day event create for the city and state?
Yeah, I think that they had different goals, right? They're different people. Governor Maura Healey, she has talked a lot about economic competitiveness and how to bring the state ahead. And so, she talked a lot about climate jobs, and she announced a new loan fund to help people who are interested in getting into the climate tech industry. And I think that having that message on a global stage shows that people should come to Massachusetts to build their companies and hire employees who are going to power the climate tech sector that is growing, that will help, reduce emissions and achieve some of the other climate goals that leaders like the governor want to achieve. So I think that was her big goal. While she was there, she also met with business leaders and consultants who either already do business in Boston or maybe want to do business in Boston. And Mayor Wu, she was the only American mayor speaking at this conference. And her message was, you can make big change at a local level. And she was trying to show other mayors from around the world what they've been able to do in Boston. And while she was there, she met with the Rome mayor at Rome City Hall. They shared some ideas. Rome may be a world away, but they still have issues around, trash pickup and traffic, slow buses that sometimes don't come. So, they had a lot to talk about. And I think that meeting of the minds, at least, Mayor Wu said, is helpful to just kind of get some perspective and form alliances, with other mayors that could be helpful down the line.
Word. Well, Sam, right here, I want to take a break. You mentioned that loan fund that Governor Healey had announced at this event. I want to talk about that after we take this break. So we'll be right back.
Politics has never been stranger or more online, which is why the politics team at Wired is making a new show, Wired Politics Lab. It's all about how to navigate the endless stream of news and information and what to look out for. Each week on the show, we'll dig into far-right platforms, AI chatbots, influencer campaigns, and so much more. Wired Politics Lab launches Thursday, April 11th. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back with Boston Globe political reporter Samantha J. Gross. So, Samantha, we are talking about a recent trip you took to Rome to follow Governor Healey and Boston Mayor Michelle Wu as they attended this 3-day conference at the Vatican to talk about climate resilience. Governor Healey made an announcement there where she announced that the state will create a fund to support workforce training in the climate sector. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, she announced this fund, which she called the Massachusetts Climate Careers Fund, which would basically give interest-free loans to people who are interested in joining the climate tech kind of workforce. The fund is going to be led by a nonprofit called Social Finance, which it was founded in Boston, and basically it would be refilled as workers paid back the loans, and it would help fund, future people to get jobs in climate. And that includes a lot of different jobs: electricians, train operators, heat pump installers, wind turbine technicians. These are jobs that are going to be more in demand as the state tries to move toward its climate goals. And so this is supposed to basically help finance this new workforce that is going to need to be hired. The administration has said that they need to hire thousands of people in order to meet the goals that they have. And this is one of their ideas on how to achieve that.
Mm-hmm. And in a sense, this initiative, you're kind of killing two birds with one stone, because you're creating a program that will help people get employed, and the jobs that will employ these folks are in the climate sector.
Correct. Yeah, it's kind of a step in the right direction. And I think, it's a big goal. It's something that I think people in the climate sector worry that, how do we reach that? We've never done that before. But the governor has made it really clear that these types of goals require like a business side approach. And so, this kind of is aligned with that. And we'll see how that turns out. Obviously, this was just announced last week, but apparently this has been in the works for a few months. The governor said that this was an idea that came to be when she was at a meeting with the Social Finance CEO, Tracy Palangen, and Jim and Kathy Stone, who are big philanthropists in Boston, but are also who are, longtime environmentalists.
And also Mayor Wu spoke at the event. She was touting the city's efforts to be more climate resilient. She's embracing infrastructure upgrades, helping residents and businesses move to renewable energy, and providing young people with job training in those industries. How was that received?
It was received well. I mean, Mayor Wu is seen as kind of a leader on this issue when it comes to mayors in this space. She ran on a platform of, making Boston a Green New Deal city. There's stuff that they've done at the city level that I think was really inspiring to some other mayors, allowing residents to power their homes or businesses with clean energy, and, ordinances that require some of these big buildings downtown or elsewhere to reduce emissions over time. And she told a really moving story about not having to buy her children snowshoes this year because snow in Boston was projected to be so low, and talked about, she's angry. She wants her kids to have snow days, and she wants them to see what the Charles River looks like frozen over when it's so beautiful, in December. And I definitely saw some people in the crowd who were really kind of taking that in.
Mm-hmm. And Samantha, I got to ask you, you being a journalist, you're going there for work. That's an opportunity that a lot of journalists don't get, right? What was your big takeaway from this experience?
Yeah, I felt obviously very fortunate to have been able to go. And there were really not very many reporters covering this. And so I was able to talk to a lot of amazing world leaders and kind of walk right up to the FEMA administrator or to, people like the London mayor who I got to interview. It was a great opportunity to hear from folks and also talk to people from all over the world about how they see Massachusetts, which is just interesting because when you're here, we have kind of a perception and, what the work that we do. And it can sometimes feel a little bit like we're in an echo chamber. But it was interesting to hear the perspective of other people who were really laudatory of the work that we've done here. And a lot of people were really interested, especially in the governor's kind of approach using kind of the economic competitiveness angle. And I think, getting businesses on board with climate resilience seems to be a really big trend. And as a journalist, it was just cool to get all these perspectives. It's not often you could just pick up the phone and call, XYZ world leader.
Mm-hmm. And did you get to see the Pope?
I did. I did not interview him,
Okay.
But I got to see him give an address.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about how, climate change is a moral issue and that the people most impacted by climate change are the people, the poorest, the people who live in areas of the world that, it's not their fault that they're impacted by big emissions or, high levels of emissions. And that, it's the duty of everybody to try to make the world more resilient so that people, can survive. And he talked about, big disasters that happen because of climate change and why it's so important to pay attention. So that was really interesting to hear him give that address. Obviously, the Vatican is beautiful. So it was just a very cool opportunity. And I got to watch all of the dignitaries go and shake his hand and give him gifts. That's a tradition. So, Governor Healey gave him a copy of Walden by Henry David Thoreau. Michelle Wu gave him a bowl made from wood fallen from the Arboretum and a Red Sox hat.
Oh, wow.
And everyone had something to give him. People brought statues and medals and all sorts of things. And he gave candy to the kids, including Mayor Wu's sons. So it was cool to witness. And I never thought I would see a pope on assignment, but there's always a first for everything.
Sam, thank you so much for coming through to the Common to talk to us about this. We really appreciate it. How cool.
Thanks, Darryl.
That's Boston Globe political reporter Samantha J. Gross. And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening to The Common. As you know, if you want to get in touch with us, hit us up on Instagram at WBUR The Common or send us an email at thecommon@wbur.org. I'm Darryl C. Murphy, and I will talk to you tomorrow.